Greetings, everyone. This week, a little review of the past 3 Miraya, because it flows into the next one, of course. And I will point out a mistake that I've done. Om Miraya Miraya Swaha. Om Miraya Miraya Swaha. Om Miraya Miraya Swaha. Om Pranaha Miraya Swaha. Om Pranaha Miraya Swaha. Om Pranaha Miraya Swaha. Om Vajra Miraya Swaha. Om Vajra Miraya Swaha. Om Vajra Miraya Swaha. Go into the Miraya state of being while people log. Miraya. Freedom in the sense that no hindrance, nothing is blocking anything. Even when your reality tells you that you are limited, contemplate that as a soul, as a being, you are not. Miraya. The more incarnate you are, and the more virtuous you are, the more that Miraya will sink into the physical world and affect the physical reality. And then Pranaha Miraya is an influence. It liberates blockages, limitation. And from there, you know that you exist as the being, not as a limited human, but as a spiritual being in nature. Vajra Miraya. And nothing can limit you as a being. The greed of the human wishes to use this power to do whatever they want without responsibility. Well, that's not how it works. Pranaha reminds us to embrace society and the physical reality. Okay? Let's keep this in mind. Because for the next mantra, let's not dream of greed. Okay? Let's review the 3 Mirayas again, okay? Om Miraya Miraya Swaha. Om Miraya Miraya Swaha. Om Miraya Miraya Swaha. Om Pranaha Miraya Swaha. Om Pranaha Miraya Swaha. Om Pranaha Miraya Swaha. Om Vajra Miraya Swaha. Om Vajra Miraya Swaha. Om Vajra Miraya Swaha. Miraya. I want to point out that the next mantra ends with Hum Pat and not Swaha. In the book, the mantra is written twice, once with Hum Pat, once with Swaha. In the PDF, it's only written, I copy-pasted the most obvious. Although I've reviewed those mantras 25 times, and someone else was paid to review it there's so much information that we missed it. Okay. This one is Om Jala Jala Vajra Burapanta Hum Pat. Okay, just take it a note, because in the PDF document that I sent you, there's a mistake. It's a Hum Pat. And it's important to realize why. Okay. So we've seen a mudra like this. Just extend the pinky a bit. This is the one. Okay. All right. And you hold the blue lotus more firmly. You know, the previous mudra, we're holding a white lotus softly with your hand like this. Now we're holding the stem, which means the grounding part, more richly, more carefully. And still, the pinky is not touching. So don't be in your head. Don't be stuck in your head. Leave your intellectual opinions out of it. Okay? Let's translate Jala Jala. We've done that before, but let's do it again. Water, in Sanskrit, the element is apsa. Water, as in some liquid, is jal or jala. That's just grammatical difference. Jala jala is jal. Jala jala doesn't mean more water. It means more profoundly into the nature of water. So, Jala Jala means mechanics of fluids. They didn't use the word mechanics of fluids in the past. They use Jala Dhatu, okay, or Jala Jala to speak of the nature of water and how it works. So here, Jala Jala means the concepts of fluidity and the convection, the flow, okay? Not related to air, but to water. Cohesion is more an apsa thing, and jal is it flows. We will simplify it by just saying jala jala means let it flow, but it's feel the mechanics of fluid, okay? Vajra, I still cannot define it precisely, but it's the experience of purity of true self, whatever that means for you, okay? Deprived of arrogance, with no illusion, okay? So Vajra is the diamond that cuts through illusion. So just as you are, that's the Vajra, okay? So the mechanics of fluids of the Vajra has this consciousness purely flows into all things. The new concept, Burapanta. Okay. Burapanta is a Buddhist term to describe the pure land in 10 directions. What does that mean? Okay. In Buddhism, there are many great schools. There are 3 categories of schools. The Mahayana, the Hinayana, and the Vajrayana. Our tradition, the Mahajriya, we want to be a Vajrayana school because we do a lot of spiritual practice and study deeper secrets. But on the surface, we behave like a Mahayana, meaning there's no rules to follow, there's no authority, no order, and you usually end up doing what you prefer and not doing what you don't like. So the fundamentals of the Mahajriya are esoteric, Vajrayana, but we behave like a Mahayana, like there's no problem. We're not strict, okay? Unless you choose to be strict with yourself, then that's another thing. Then it belongs to you. In the Mahayana, so the relaxed Buddhism tradition, there's one called the Pure Land. The Pure Land is a concept that is known through all traditions. There's one specific on that teaching of the Pure Land. That if you elevate your consciousness enough, you will gain access to the Pure Land, like a world where everything is perfect. It's quite an utopia to promise such an illusion from Sakyamuni Buddha. So the Buddha Sakyamuni explained more in detail that the Pure Land is not a land, but dimensions of consciousness or levels of consciousness. Okay. The Pure Land is various levels of consciousness once pure, so without judgments and without hindrance. Okay. In the 10 directions, those who don't understand the 10 planes of consciousness, or the Kabbalists will have the 10 Sefirot. The Panta is in a 10-fold way. Okay. The Buddhists translated it in the 10 directions: forward, back, left, right, up, down. That's 6. And then 45 degrees in 4 ways. But actually, if you want to cover all the angles in that way, you'd have 16. So it does not apply. That's not it. Some people say forward, backward, left, right, up, down, inside, outside, and that's 8. So where are the 10? So these are the misinterpretation of the word panta, which means 10-fold, or in set of 10s. Buddha Panta thus means the 10 planes of consciousness once purified, without judgment. Okay. And that is the Pure Land of Buddhism. In the Lotus Sutra, Sakyamuni Buddha explains reality is made of 10 states of reality, 10 levels of reality and illusion. And then he explained the 10 planes of consciousness with 10 words that I won't go through right now. The first 3 are interesting, so I'll talk about it. The appearing, the nature, and the entity. What we call the creator. The Buddha thinks if we don't want to believe in a false creator or make ourselves a false image, let's remove the idea of a creator, because it is too tempting to make it into a person and give it a name. So instead of being the creator, the first plane will be the appearing. Stuff just appears. In this way, Sakyamuni speaks of the effect of the first plane instead of the potential person. And that is to avoid anthropomorphization. Okay? So the first 3 planes are not described by Buddha as creator, creation, and interaction. It is described as the appearing, the nature, and the entity. The second plane, nature. Nature as everything. That is Vishnu. Vishnu is everything that exists. But Vishnu is so tempting to call it a name and make it into a person that Buddha said the second plane is the nature of all things, and it is nature as all of these things are natural in their own state. Basically creation. You have in the first plane what appears, or the phenomena of appearance of things, and the second plane is those things that have appeared now is nature. It's natural. It helps to see the creator and the creation as not people, but as just phenomena that are universal. So I like Sakyamuni's way of describing the 10 planes. The third plane, as described by Sakyamuni Buddha, what is Shiva for the Brahmins, for the Hindu? He calls it entity. Because on the third plane is where identification to something happens. It is the plane of entity, where Shiva opens his third eye and becomes conscious of being. Sakyamuni says this is where the concept of entity happens. This is where you could anthropomorphize but shouldn't. This is where you can identify things as something aware. But as an entity, it's not defined if it's a human or a god, or it's just an entity. And it's not clear which. So basically the idea of identification to principles. And then he goes on. Of course, I don't want to spend too much time on that. I'll give another class. I will give another class on the 10 planes from the view of Buddha at another time. I've done it in the past also. But this is the way of the Buddha to name the 10 planes of consciousness. And he's clear about these are the 10 stages through which all of creation happened. And he speaks of reality and illusion in that teaching. Briefly, it's a single line in the Lotus Sutra. But it's nice, the feeling of you can't put an identity of a human, or Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. It removes any kind of concept of person, the appearance of all things, and it identified itself to something. So you see, it's very pure. That is what the Buddha refers to as the Pure Lands in all their stages. So the pure experience of it without any possible anthropomorphism and without attachments to definitions. Okay? That's the Pure Land. To have access to the Pure Land, well, there's a practice, basically, that Buddha taught. Those who just want to get to the Pure Land, even if they have not achieved Buddhahood yet, but don't want to reincarnate, they can try. It's not guaranteed, but they can try doing the Pure Land mantra, which is Amitabha Buddha. If they spend their entire lifetime contemplating the simple concept of infinite light conscious, Amitabha Buddha, infinite light consciousness. Amitabha Buddha means that, okay, infinite light awakened. Then you could have access to the Pure Land when you die. So you still evolve, but not through incarnation, just slowly through absorbing consciousness of the whole. Okay? And of course, instead of contemplating the meaning of Amitabha Buddha, the Pure Landists who are religious started to adore a god who is a Buddha, an anthropomorph, and his first name is Amitabha, like without even knowing the definition. So they pray Amitabha Buddha to be saved. They pray a saint to be saved. And that is not a Pure Land practice. The Pure Land practice is not to anthropomorphize a Buddha, but to contemplate an infinite light that is awakened. Amitabha Buddha, that's what it means. Of course, humans being what they are, we made a religion out of it. And the Pure Land now hopes that their soul will be saved. So it's the closest Buddhist tradition to the Christian. They hope that Amitabha Buddha will save them even if they have sinned. I have lied, I have committed murder, I've raped, I have stolen goods. I hope that Amitabha Buddha will take me in heaven even with all my sins. Amitabha Buddha, please save me. So that's what the Pure Land tradition becomes. Going back to Burapanta, to the tenfold experience of pure reality. Jala Jala Vajra, our consciousness flows without illusion in every plane. So that mantra follows the three Miraya mantras. Okay, Miraya, Pranaha Miraya, Vajra Miraya, Om Jala Jala Vajra, Burapanta Hum Pat. So you want it to be like a surprise and sign that I decide to flow without any illusion or drama or definition in every plane in the purest possible form. And it is meant to be breathtaking. Okay, Hompat. So we go into a serious attitude of desiring to exist purely. After the three mantras of liberation of any illusion, just flow without limitation, that flow will invade our planes of consciousness. So basically, beyond our human capacities. Let me explain that one. When you have the word Vajra in the mantra, it means as a pure being, not as a human. When you have the word Vajra, it means that you want to discredit anything in your human and any potential you are carrying inside and give priority to pure soul experience. So you will want to be surpassed. Using a mantra with the word Vajra is asking for your human to be surpassed even if it doesn't want to. And this is where the Hompat comes. Putting Hompat at the end of this mantra, and maybe why I did the mistake, because I was scared of what that mantra meant when I first practiced it. I had the denial of fear, but it took me a while to realize it, and then I didn't realize I had made a mistake. Basically, I became afraid, subtly in the subconscious, asking for my 10 planes to function unanthropomorphized, disregarding any belief I have, any system I hold on to, and any potential that is afraid to disappear in the oneness, Discredit my human views on things and exist purely as a being at every level. And let me be surprised by it. Hompat. Let me be beyond my own expectations. With this mantra, Om Jala Jala Vajrabura Panta Hompat, I'm saying it doesn't matter what I think is right or wrong. It doesn't matter my opinions. I want to be conscious purely. And of course, anything that doesn't want to be conscious purely will complain. What does it mean to exist purely? If you have seen the previous class, Vajramiraya, you've experienced how severe I was with myself. This mantra doesn't need to be that severe. We don't have to make an effort. Vajraburapanta is asking for it right there. Break my limitation. As much as I hold to my opinions are causing me suffering. As much as I hold to my systems of thinking, they are limiting my experience. I'm not truly objective because everything experienced is filtered through a potential, a conditioning, an education, a trauma, stuff like that. Education, I don't mean only school. There's also how you were raised. Okay, so there's education in every way it means. You don't want to be limited by that. Revelations will happen. By practicing Vajraburapanta, revelations happen. Let that consciousness flow beyond my own limitations and judgments and filters. Like just cut that illusion. Let's give it to me raw, crudo, just give it to me. It is not severe. It discredits the human opinions. It disregards the limitations. But it's not severe. This mantra is not like the arbatel of the seeds or the seeds of truth. But it holds no respect for you as a human. No respect for your potentials. It says, let's live. Let's exist. Let's be there. And now remove the word live, exist, and be from the phrase I just said. It's just, I'm trying to teach you something, and purely the concept of living, of lifespan, of being will also be stripped. Whatever that means for you. But I only have the words of the human dictionary to communicate, so I have to use these words. But these words are inaccurate to truly convey the message, to transport the wisdom through. Okay. So we will do this mala now. Left hand, this is my left hand. Thumb on the side of the index, pinky relaxed. Not raised elegantly, but relaxed. Okay. I want it to flow, the consciousness to just go without illusion through every plane and bring me the revelations surprisingly, unhindered by any potentials I hold. I mean, it's extremely wide the way I could say it, that phrase. You'll have to do your own contemplation, meditation on Sanskrit words to get more experience on what they mean. Having the mala. Om Jala Jala Vajraburapanta Hompat. 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 Jala Jala Vajraburapanta Hompat. Om 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 Jala Jala Vajra Bora Panta Humpa. Om Jala Jala Vajra Bura 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 Panta Humpa. Jala Jala Vajra Panta Humpa. Om Jala Jala Vajra Bura 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 Panta Humpa. Om Jala Jala Vajra Pun. Om Jala Jala Vajra Bura Panta Humpa. 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 Jala Jala Vajra Bumaranta. Om Jala Vajra Bura Panta Humpa. Om Jala 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 Jala Vajra Bura Panta Humpa. Jala Jala Vajra Bura Panta Humpa. Om 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 Jala Jala Vajra Bura Panta Humpa. Asking for the soul experience to transcend human limitation. asking to function in natural life purely as a being. Of course, with expedient mean, with compassion for others, respect, prudence, and justice, well incarnate in this world, free from fears, dramas, not blocked by pride, and not ashamed of what you are, basically without denial also, amongst other things. A last note on a realization I had with this mantra, with this kind of mantra. If you are surpassed as a human by the truth that comes to you, you must always be ready to admit you don't know perfectly what reality is until the wisdom is processed. The humility to admit everything I believe that is real right now. Like when you understand a specific situation, when you have a strategy to handle a problem, when you're afraid of the consequences. It's sometimes challenging to have the humility. I don't have a pure perception of all this. So this mantra reminds you, until an experience is done and digested, you don't have the pure consciousness of what it's made of. But you can decide to have an attitude of being available to that purity. Let's see what life brings. Let's see what I can grow from that. This attitude requires humility to admit that perfection is a flawed concept. The perfect plan, if it's something that you have, cannot be perfect. But the experience is perfect in the sense that it is just what it is. And it carries the wisdom it carries. So when you use the word perfect, it's a word, we use it. Be aware that there's a potential flaw if that perfection is only an interpretation of what we think is perfect. And there's no way to know until it's too late. Looking at an experience is looking like a cookie. Until you eat it, you don't really know what it tastes like. And when you do, it's too late. So that is how to approach perfection. But it's a cookie I've eaten 1,000 times. And then you say, hey, they changed the recipe and it doesn't taste like it did. So you see the trap of conditionment here, of conditioning, is repeating something so often that you end up fixing it as an absolute way to function in life. Like cooking recipes. I cook eggs in a very specific way. If eggs are not cooked that way, I don't like them. It's a preference. That means I will never be available to be surprised by new things. If it involves eggs, it should be my way. You see, that's a limitation. Of course, that's a metaphor or that's an example. I will eat eggs in whatever form. And still I prefer cooking them my way, which is very simple. That's an example. When it comes to how you handle your finances, the conflicts between the pro-vaccine and the anti-vax, everyone is always convinced to be right. And that means us. That means me. That means you. We're always convinced to be right. So this mantra, Jala Jala Vajra Burapanta, Hompati, it will bring us to experiences that we can't have prepared entirely. And we hope to have the humility to just take them as they are and not be so dramatic about it. Rather be interrogative. Okay, let's see how I live with that. Let's see how I learn. I have scary events right now happening in my life, not death threats, nothing like that. Scary in I have no whole idea what the future holds. My financial future is a complete blank. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm going to eat every day. I'm going to have clothing and shelter. But the way things are, I just don't know how it's going to work out. I have the feeling of security inside. That's cool. But it bothers me that I currently don't have the control. The solution is for me to just embrace experience, do my best, and stop dramatizing. It's like every new development about the laws, the COVID, the income tax, the way things play themselves, my products that are being sold, I mean, all the things are coming in. I have no idea where it's going. It's the fact that I don't have control, that it's moving, that disturbs me really. It's drama. There's no fear in there. There's pride. I say I'm afraid, but actually, I don't like it when I don't have control. It's not just fear, it's pride. It's very secret, hidden, like, I would rather have control and do whatever I want, whenever I want. There's also laziness. I don't want to have to fill all these reports, all these numbers. You understand me, you know, you do your business and then the accounting is just, it's a chore. Like, I prefer washing the dishes to doing accounting, but I have lots of accounting to do. So you see, it's not fear. It's laziness, it's greed. It's the poisons anyway in the back. So when you say that you want to embrace everything purely, you need this willingness to explore experiences. Yeah, the way Raven put it. This availability to trust evolution and don't believe everything you see or interpret is true. So a little trick. Every time you think you're right about a situation, you probably are, but you might not. Don't be so certain about yourself all the time. Trust evolution. Like, what's the truth anyway? It's an experience. It happens in the now, in the pram moment, you know. So you take it as it is. All right. Om Jala Jala Vajrabura Panta Hom Pat. Remember to correct your documents to put a Hom Pat instead of a Swaha in that mantra. All right. See you next week.